All right, today we're going to dive into one of the most mysterious and honestly most debated chapters in all of ancient prophecy, Daniel chapter 12. We're going to go verse by verse and unpack its cryptic timeline and some pretty surprising connections to major historical events. So, let's get right into it.
Wow. Okay, so this chapter does not waste any time. Verse 1 just drops us right into the action. We hear about Michael, the great prince, standing up for his people, and it happens during a time of trouble that's unlike anything the world has ever seen. That's a heck of an opening. So you gotta wonder, right? What exactly is this time of trouble?
Now you might be thinking this is about some far-off future apocalypse, but the interpretation we're exploring today anchors this prophecy in a very specific, very real historical catastrophe, the 3.5-year Roman-Jewish War. This was the war that ended with the complete destruction of Jerusalem and its temple, and during that absolutely chaotic time, the angel Michael is said to have been there, watching over the deliverance of the saints.
And this is where it gets really fascinating. Look at the language here. On the left, you have Daniel's time of trouble such as never was. And on the right, Jesus, in the Gospel of Matthew, talks about a great tribulation with almost identical wording. This direct parallel is huge. It suggests that Christ himself was pointing back to this very prophecy, basically highlighting just how significant those events around 70 AD really were.
Okay, so after all that talk of intense trouble, the prophecy completely shifts gears. It pivots to a message of profound hope. Let's look at this next theme, the promise of resurrection.
Talk about a contrast. Right after the turmoil, verses 2 and 3 give us this incredible image of an awakening. It says many who sleep in the dust are going to arise. And the wise? They're going to shine like stars forever. It's just this powerful, beautiful picture of restoration after a period of intense darkness.
So the big question is, when did this happen? Well, this particular source connects this resurrection not to some distant future event, but to the very moment of Christ's own rising from the dead. You might remember Matthew's Gospel says that when Jesus rose, the graves were opened, and many bodies of the saints which slept arose. This is seen as a fulfillment, a powerful preview of the greater resurrection to come.
All right, just when you think you're getting the hang of it, the vision takes a really mysterious turn. Daniel gets a very strange instruction, and it introduces this idea of a hidden message, one that's meant to be locked away until a specific time in the future.
So here it is in verse 4. Can you imagine being Daniel? You've just seen all this, and then you're told to shut up the words and seal the book. Basically, lock it down. This knowledge isn't for your time. It's for the time of the end. A future period when people will be searching everywhere for answers and knowledge will finally be increased. So what is this sealed book? According to this interpretation, Daniel's sealed prophecy is actually pointing forward to the book of Revelation. I mean, think about it. In Revelation chapter 5, there's a famous sealed scroll that nobody can open, except for the Lamb of God. That increase in knowledge is then understood to be the insight and understanding given to the early saints through Christ's teachings.
An angel then gives Daniel the first of these cryptic timelines. He swears an oath that all these events will be finished after a time, times, and in half. And it all culminates with the scattering of the holy people.
Okay, let's break this down because it seems weird, but it's actually pretty simple. Time is understood to be 1 year. Times, plural, means 2 years, and a half is, well, half a year. You add that all together, and what do you get? 3.5 years. And that is the exact duration of the Roman-Jewish War, which ended with the scattering of the Jewish people in 70 AD. That alignment is pretty incredible.
Now, even with all these clues, Daniel himself is still confused. And honestly, who can blame him? So this next part focuses on his plea for clarity, and the angel's answer reveals that this understanding is really only reserved for a specific group of people.
In verse 8, Daniel just asks the question that we're all thinking. So, what's the endgame here? What does this all lead to? It's such a human moment, you know? Just this raw curiosity and confusion in the face of something so massive. And the angel's answer is fascinating. He basically tells Daniel, look, it's not for you to fully understand right now. The words are sealed. But then he adds this absolutely crucial detail. At the time of the end, the wicked won't get it at all, but the wise shall understand.
Now check out this comparison because it's pretty powerful. In Daniel, it says many will run to and fro, and for them, knowledge will be increased.
But then you look at a prophecy from Amos, and it says people will run to and fro, seeking the word of the Lord, and they won't find it. It's like a spiritual famine. The source suggests the difference isn't the searching, it's the heart of the person who's doing the seeking.
All right, we're heading into the final verses of the chapter now, and it wraps up with two more highly specific numerical prophecies. We're talking precise day counts that add a whole other layer to this vision.
First up, verse 11 gives us this number, 1,290 days. Now, if you do the math, that's approximately 3.5 years, which, again, reinforces that timeline of the Roman-Jewish War. This period is said to start when the daily sacrifice in the temple was stopped, and to end with the abomination that maketh desolate, which is often understood to be when the Romans planted their military standards right in the temple itself.
Then, verse 12 gives us a second number, 1,335 days. And this one comes with a promise. It says, "Blessed is he that waiteth, and cometh to this time." This really suggests that this date is some kind of important milestone, something beyond the initial destruction.
So how do we interpret this number? Well, this is where the source material we're looking at takes a really remarkable leap. The idea isn't to just keep counting days from 70 AD. Instead, it proposes that this prophetic number connects to a totally different calendar system and points to an event that happened thousands of years later.
And here it is. This is the proposed connection. The year 1335 on the Islamic calendar corresponds to the year 1917 AD on the Gregorian calendar. So what was so special about 1917? That was the year of the Balfour Declaration. That's when the British government publicly pledged its support for a Jewish national home in Palestine. For people who had been scattered for centuries, this was a pivotal, game-changing political moment that kicked off the potential for a return to their ancestral land.
And after all that, all the turmoil, all the timelines, the chapter and the entire book of Daniel ends with this final, personal word of assurance to the prophet himself. He's told to just go his way, to rest, and that he will receive his inheritance at the end of the days. It's just a remarkably peaceful conclusion to a prophecy filled with so much global chaos. So we're left with this crucial idea to chew on. Daniel was told his words were sealed, that they'd only be understood by the wise at the time of the end. The interpretation we've explored today suggests that this unsealing happened not just in 70 AD, but maybe again in 1917. And that leaves us with a really powerful question. What does it mean for a prophecy to unfold not all at once, but in layers, across the vast expanse of human history?